I worked diligently as a sycophant for Colin for a year. When his clothes got dirty, I washed them. When his sneakers got dirty, I scrubbed them. When he was hungry, I brought him food. When he was thirsty, I handed him water. When he got drunk, I carried him home. When he went to a hotel with a girl, I stood guard for him. My sycophancy was well known. Yet Colin still scowled at me. When he was happy, he made fun of me. When he was angry, he took his anger out on me. Those friends around him all thought I was crazy. They couldn't understand why. Even though Colin treated me like a dog, I was still willing to bark a few times. I never told anyone that this hard-working sycophant, was actually hired by Colin's older brother, Kyler, who pays me 300 yuan every month. Colin treats me like a sycophant, while I treat him as my career. Colin had a quarrel with his new girlfriend, Monica. In a fit of anger, his girlfriend yanked off the necklace around her neck and threw it into the swimming pool. That necklace was given to her by Colin and was worth a fortune. Colin was not the type to coax others. Usually, it was others who coaxed him. It was harder than climbing the sky to make him lower his head. Colin kicked over the rattan chair and roared, "If you don't want to play, then get the hell out of here." Monica's shoulders twitched as she cried. With so many people around, being scolded like this by Colin, she felt humiliated and ran away, covering her face. Colin's face was so gloomy that he seemed ready to kill someone. This was another great opportunity for me, the sycophant, to earn money. So I sent a simple and straightforward message to Kyler. A few minutes after sending the message, Alipay reminded me that 50 yuan had been credited to my account. Without hesitation, I immediately took off my coat and jumped into the swimming pool. The moment I jumped into the water, there was an uproar on the shore. "It's so cold, and yet she's jumping into the pool? No one dares to claim the first place as a sycophant if Jolie claims the second. She's really going all out just to make Colin look at her a few more times. Isn't she?" The pool water was bone-chillingly cold. By the time I finally found the necklace and climbed to the shore, my hands and feet were freezing cold, and I couldn't stop shivering. Colin was right on the shore, arms folded, looking at me leisurely. I held up the necklace in my hand and shook it. "Colin, having fulfilled my desire. Look, I've retrieved the necklace for you," he said disapprovingly. "Did I ask you to pick it up?" No matter how foul-tempered he was still my money-maker. I climbed out of the pool and pretended to say, "Colin, whatever I do is just to make you happy. Please don't be angry, okay? Every time you frown, I feel so distressed. If you don't like it, I can just throw the necklace back." The people around seemed to be grossed out by my words, each wearing an expression as if they had seen a ghost. To be honest, I was almost vomiting myself. But Colin's expression gradually softened. He was receptive to these words. He said infuriately, "No need to be so troublesome. Anyway, having fulfilled my desire, this necklace is already trash. Since you picked it up, it's yours." I smiled excitedly. This necklace could be sold for at least 70 to 80 yuan. Colin glanced at me contemptuously. "Jolie, do you like me that much?" I nodded heavily. With an annual base salary of 3.6 million yuan, and Kyler often gives me various subsidies. Not to mention that Colin often throws some so-called trash at me. Only a fool wouldn't like this. "Okay?" Colin put his hands in his trouser pockets and looked down at me. "But I will never like a woman as tasteless as you in my life. Stop daydreaming." I resisted the urge to roll my eyes and continued, "It doesn't matter if you don't love me. As long as you give me the chance to love you, that's enough." Colin nodded with great satisfaction and turned around haughtily and left. People around were pointing and whispering. But I didn't mind at all. It's about making money. It's not embarrassing. The Oscars owe me a little golden statue. When I was 7 years old, my mother and I were kicked out of the house by my father. Within 2 months, my father brought his mistress and daughter, Sunny, into the Jolie family. Sunny was only 1 year younger than me, which meant that my father had an affair not long after he got married to my mother. My mother didn't have much education and supported my studies by selling vegetables. A year ago, my mother was hospitalized due to cerebral hemorrhage. I went to my father to ask for money. But he and my stepmother drove me out. My stepmother put her hands on her hips and cursed at me. Your mother has no money for treatment. That's her bad luck. You want to cheat our family's money? In your next life. Just when I was at the end of my rope, Kyler found me. He hired me at a high salary to be Colin's sycophant because my eyes resembled Colin's first love. Yvette. Yvette and Colin had been in love for 3 years and were about to get married. But Yvette had an affair. She dumped Colin and went abroad with her new boyfriend. Colin was stimulated and has since suffered from bipolar disorder. He can't control his emotions and often does some astonishing things. As a sycophant who looks somewhat like Yvette, my existence is to allow Colin to vent his resentment and dissatisfaction towards Yvette while being fawned over. In other words, I'm Colin's medicine. I had just taken the necklace that Colin casually threw to me to sell when I received a call from the nanny. She said that Colin had crashed into a guardrail while racing and was hospitalized. As a sycophant, I rushed to the hospital in a hurry. As soon as I entered the ward, I immediately threw myself onto Colin's hospital bed and cried my eyes out. Colin folded his arms and stared at me coldly. I'm not dead yet. Who are you crying for at the grave? Okay. I overdid it. I wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes and started peeling an apple for Colin. Jolie, what do you like about me? My hand trembled. And the apple peel broke. If I said I liked his money, would he beat me to death? I cleared my throat. I like your eyes. Nose. Mouth. Collarbone. Pectoral muscles. Abdominal muscles, his sneer interrupted me. Are all you women so shallow? Of course not. If women only looked at appearance. How could he have been dumped by Yvette? I gave a silly laugh. I can't help it. You're so handsome. After all? He suddenly hugged me around the waist. I was still holding a fruit knife in my hand. And I was almost scared to death. He stared at my lips and said seductively. Since you like me so much, I'll give you a chance. How about being my girlfriend? Not good. You scoundrel. Trying to cut off my source of income? What kind of stimulation did Colin get this time? He actually had his eyes on me. The sycophant. If I refused him, wouldn't the persona of the sycophant collapse? If I agreed to him, who would compensate me with a 300 yuan monthly salary? I was hesitant and didn't know how to answer. My silence actually made Colin misunderstand. He said, Jolie, are you too happy? Are you stunned? I gave a couple of dry laughs. Colin suddenly let go of me and lay back on the bedside. Lacking enthusiasm. I was just kidding you. Did you really think I could take a fancy to you? I think he's not bipolar. He's possessed by a drama queen. His inner monologue is just too much. I calmed my nerves. Cut the apple into small pieces. And smilingly picked up the plate and handed it to him. Now that you're in the hospital, you should eat more fruits to supplement your nutrition. He put his hands behind his head and stared at me quietly for a few seconds. As if thinking about something. After a moment of silence, he said, Feed me. My hand shook, and I almost dropped the plate. He curled his lips. It's just an opportunity to feed me. Are you that excited? I was speechless. Although you're handsome, being so self-confident to the point of being narcissistic is really hard to understand. I forced a smile, skewered a piece of apple with a toothpick, and held it to his lips. Eat. He took a full half hour to eat one apple, and my hand was almost exhausted. I was calculating in my mind how to apply to Kyler for some work-related injury subsidies. What are you thinking about? Colin's slightly displeased voice came. You're actually distracted while being with me? Come on. Only our MB can make me concentrate, okay? He pinched my chin and turned my face towards him, looking at me with great interest. Jolie. I suddenly realized that not only are your eyes beautiful, but your lips are also quite nice. What does that mean? I didn't dare to move and froze in place. His face suddenly got closer. And his lips also approached. Just as he was about to kiss me, my hand was about to slap him. What are you two doing? Monica's shrill voice suddenly rang out. To be honest, Monica was the most pretentious among all of Colin's girlfriends. But at this moment, I felt like she was a godsend. I quickly jumped away. Monica. Don't get me wrong. He just slapped me. Monica stared at me suspiciously. Really? Colin sneered and spoke up before me. False. I was about to kiss her just now. Help. I earned this money on the edge of a knife. Is it easy for me? He even added fuel to the fire. The necklace she threw away. I gave it to Jolie. Monica's tears streamed down immediately. Colin. What do you mean? Colin said lazily. It means I don't want to play with you anymore. You're dumped. Well. Monica ran away crying again. You can break up if you want. But why drag me into it? Monica came to cause trouble for me the next day. I invested in a milk tea shop myself and hired 2 college students to work part-time. I would occasionally go to the store to check. Monica came to my store and ordered 30 cups of brown sugar bombay fresh milk, and specifically asked me to make them. I'm the boss. How could I know how to make this? Monica wasn't happy. She insisted that I was an unscrupulous merchant and asked what kind of milk tea shop I was running if I couldn't make milk tea. As she cursed, she started crying again, saying that I had stolen her boyfriend. More and more people gathered around. As soon as they heard about mistresses and other such things, they got excited. I wanted to pull Monica away, but she swung a slap at me. I dodged, and she missed, but her nail scratched my face. My face hurt badly. She wouldn't have disfigured me. Would she? I can endure Colin's temper because I can earn money. Why should I bear the anger from his ex-girlfriend? I wanted to fight back, but I forcefully suppressed my anger, withdrew the raised hand, and instead covered my cheek, because I saw Kyler coming. I couldn't easily ruin my pitiful little white flower image. Kyler was wearing a well-tailored Italian handmade suit, and his 2 long legs were almost as long as my waist. Monica. As far as I know, my brother has broken up with you. Since he's single. Who he wants to date is his own business. Kyler's aura was too strong. And Monica's momentum immediately weakened. She shrank her head like a quail. From now on, don't let me see you coming to trouble Jolie. Kyler's voice was too sharp. And Monica was so scared that she was shaking. She ran away with her tail between her legs. Her escape movements were so skillful that I even felt a bit sorry for her. If she could run like this, why not join the track and field team? Because Kyler came forward to clarify things for me. The onlookers dispersed. I immediately took out my phone and opened the mirror. What kind of lousy manicure did she do? It scratched a shallow red mark on my left jaw. Fortunately, it's not deep, and it probably won't leave a scar. Does it hurt? Kyler raised his hand, seemingly wanting to touch my wound, but his fingers paused for a few seconds and then withdrew. It doesn't really hurt that much. But I still pinched my throat and squeezed out to tears. It hurts. President Kyler. This should be considered an occupational injury. Right? He looked at me with a half smile. Then I'll send you to the hospital and ask a doctor to examine the injury. That's really not necessary. I coughed lightly and said with an embarrassed smile. President Kyler. You're a busy person. How could I trouble you with such a minor injury? I can go to the hospital myself. But about the medical expenses? Kyler chuckled. Jolie. You can be more straightforward. In this past year, most of my communication with Kyler has been on WeChat. Through the screen, having fulfilled my obsession. I can talk to him about money without any scruples. But facing him like this, I'm really a bit embarrassed. Maybe it's because his aura is too strong. Or maybe it's because he's too handsome. I simply don't dare to look him in the eye. He took out his phone and transferred a sum of money to me on WeChat as an occupational injury subsidy, without hesitation. I happily clicked to receive it. Thank you, President Kyler. I have a meeting to attend. If you have anything, you can contact me on WeChat anytime. After saying that, he turned and left. Clearly, Kadin Sofeld Sai. He and Colin are brothers from the same mother. Why is there such a big difference between them? I returned to the store, found a band-aid, and was about to put it on my face when Kyler came back again. He handed me a plastic bag, which contained a bottle of iodine tincture, a pack of cotton swabs, and a box of band-aids. I was stunned for a moment. He said in a calm voice, "It's best to disinfect it first. Do you need my help?" Him applying medicine to me? I didn't even dare to imagine that scene. I shook my head and firmly refused. "No. I can do it myself." He didn't say anything more and left again. He's really like a gust of wind. Colin asked me to accompany him to watch the stars on the mountain. On such a cold day. I really appreciate it. Sarcastic. I wrapped myself in a coat. Shivering. Colin sat next to me, having fulfilled my ups to me. Drinking beer bottle after bottle. He was drunk and leaned his head on my shoulder. The smell of alcohol he exhaled made me a little dizzy. "Jolie. The stars are so bright tonight." I perfunctorily replied. "Yeah. Does he really think it's romantic to come to the mountaintop to watch the stars in the middle of winter?" I just feel cold and couldn't help but sneeze. He was half drunk and half awake, squinted at me for 2 seconds. Then suddenly smiled and said, "You're cold. Let me warm you up." Then he hugged me into his arms, and even rubbed his chin against my forehead. He had stubble on his chin, which made my forehead a little painful. "Jolie. Do you like me?" I said against my will. "Yes." "How much do you like me?" Is he suffering from a broken heart again and wants to hear me confess? I took a deep breath and repeated the words I had said many times. "I like you very much. Especially like you. Extremely like you. I like you so much that I lose myself. You're always the first in my heart." He was very satisfied and chuckled. I let out a long sigh of relief. Although Colin has a bad temper. If you figure out his temperament. He's quite easy to please. It's quite far from the urban area here. And Colin has been drinking. So we stayed at his villa in the suburbs. I helped him walk into the bedroom. After he lay down. Just as I was about to leave. He called out to me. "How can I sleep if you don't take off my shoes?" I secretly clenched my fists. I really want to punch him to death. After holding back. I still took off his shoes. Socks. And coat. His eyes were foggy. Staring straight at me. Making me a little nervous. "What's wrong?" He didn't say anything. Suddenly. He reached out. Pulled me into his arms. Then rolled over and pinned me down on the bed. "What does he want to do?" Colin stroked my cheek with his right hand. I felt itchy and slightly turned my head. This subtle movement made him unhappy. He pinched my chin to straighten my face and squinted his eyes unhappily. "Are you rejecting me?" I almost suspect he drank fake wine. He was pressing on me. And I was gradually having trouble breathing. I tried to persuade him. "It's so late. You should rest." Colin curled his lips. "Yeah. It's very late." "Then don't leave. Stay with me. Although I love money. I haven't considered sacrificing my chastity for it for now." His palm stroked my waist. And he lowered his head. His lips gradually approaching. I gritted my teeth. Raised my head. And fiercely hit his chin with my forehead. He gasped in pain. "Jolie. Are you crazy? You're the one who's crazy. Your whole family is crazy." I took the opportunity to push him away and ran out of the house in a panic. Seeing Colin's eager to move appearance recently. I guess I'm not destined to enjoy the money of the Kyler family. This villa is on the halfway up the mountain. It's so dark outside. I walked down the path for a few minutes. And all the horror movie scenes came to my mind. I was so scared that I ran back. I didn't dare to enter the room again. So I sat on the steps at the entrance of the courtyard and silently waited for dawn. After thinking about it, I still sent a message to Kyler. "President Kyler. Thank you for your care this year. I want to resign." It was already 11 p.m. I thought Kyler had already gone to bed. But within 2 minutes, he called me. "Can you tell me the reason?" How can I say this? Should I say Colin tried to sleep with me and I wasn't willing? I thought for a while and said euphemistically. "Your brother is a nice person. But I don't like him." The person on the other end of the phone was silent. I felt nervous. Kyler suddenly chuckled softly. "I know my brother's character better than you. You've suffered a lot this year. This person is quite strange. He gave me such a high salary. Yet he still thinks I've been wronged. Why is he so different from other Kabbalists? Did something happen just now?" I pursed my lips. Colin was drunk. Maybe he mistook me for a vet. He stopped smiling. Where are you now? At the entrance of the villa on Qiu Shanted your family. Okay. Wait for me for a while. I'll come to pick you up now. President Kyler. There's no need to be so troublesome. It's not safe for a girl like you to be outside in the middle of the night. Just after hanging up the phone, it started to drizzle. When Kyler arrived, half of my hair and clothes were wet. He held an umbrella over my head. Why didn't you go in to take shelter from the rain? I didn't say anything. He understood and said in a deep voice. Sorry. I'm late. He should have come out after taking a bath. His fine bangs hung over his forehead, giving him a rare, gentle look. I got caught in the rain. And Kyler was afraid I'd catch a cold. So he took me to another villa of the Kyler family on the mountainside and asked me to take a hot bath first. I was stunned. Do rich people buy villas in bulk? As a result, Kyler said casually that this whole area at villas was built by their family. Well, I'm really out of touch. This house is his private residence. He gave me a white shirt to use as pajamas. Sorry. I don't have any women's clothes here. This shirt is new. You can make do with it. For some reason, my cheeks felt a little hot. When I reached out to take the shirt, my fingertips accidentally touched his. And I retracted my fingers like I got an electric shock. He also withdrew his hand, and the shirt fell to the floor. I explained in a fluster. Sorry. There seems to be static electricity. We both squatted down to pick it up at the same time. Our movements were too synchronized. His palm happened to press on the back of my hand. I hardly dared to breathe. And I panicked and tried to escape. As a result, when I looked up, I hit his chin again. Help. In one night, I managed to hurt the chins of both brothers. Could I be any more stupid? I picked up the shirt and quickly rushed into the bathroom, locking the door behind me. Looking at myself in the mirror, my cheeks were as red as a tomato. So embarrassing. After taking a bath, I was too ashamed to go out of the bathroom. After a full hour, Kyla probably was afraid I'd faint in the bathroom and came to knock on the bathroom door. Jolie. Are you okay? I'm fine. I opened the door with a forced smile. Kyler had already changed out of his suit and was wearing a dark blue pajamas. He handed me a box of milk. It's just been heated. You'll sleep better after drinking it. Thank you. In the dim light, I vaguely felt his ears were quite red. I couldn't help asking him. President Kyler. Are you allergic? Kyler noticed my gaze, touched his ear, and coughed lightly. Yes. I'll go rest first. You should go to bed early too. The way he turned and left was a bit like Monica running away. How should I put it? It was very hasty. I lay down on the bed and took out my phone. There were several unread messages on WeChat. One was from my half-sister. Sis. I'm back in the country. Have dinner with me this weekend. One was from Jason, the object of my sister's childhood crush. Jolie. I'm back in the country. Do you have time to have a meal together? To be honest, I've never had a good relationship with Sunny. Clearly, her mother was the mistress. But she insists on acting superior to me, saying that my mother was the one who destroyed their family. After Jason confessed to me, Sunny's attitude towards me got even worse. She thought I deliberately seduced Jason to get revenge on her. I think she's crazy. Jason is such a dull person. All he knows is classical Chinese and math and physics. Unless I'm crazy one day, there's no way I'd choose an old-fashioned person like him. Jason came to my store earlier than Sunny. The way he confessed was as old-fashioned as it was a few years ago. I waved my hand. You're not my type. Give up. He stammered and asked me. What type do you like? I can learn. I snorted. I like rich people. Can you learn to be that? He pursed his lips, didn't say anything, and left. These days, why do I keep seeing people's backs? So annoying. Even more annoying is that the next day, Jason came again and brought me a bank card. I was stunned. He said a little shyly. This is my pocket money from childhood to now. There's more than 2 million. You can take it first. I'll start working in a few days. And I'll give you all my salary in the future. Brother. Are you stupid? I reached out and touched his forehead, wanting to see if he had a fever. But he suddenly held my hand and wouldn't let go. Jolie, are you cheating on me? A chill crept up my spine. Why did this troublemaker Colin come again? Colin grabbed my left hand, trying to pull me behind him. But my right hand was tightly held by Jason. Jolie. Who is he? They both asked in unison. My temples were throbbing violently. What kind of awkward situation was this? What are you three doing? It was Kyler. Well, with 4 people, we might as well go play Mahjong. The situation was so chaotic that I didn't know how to handle it for a moment. Colin and Jason held my left and right hands and refused to let go. The posture of the 3 of us was really strange. Fortunately, having fulfilled Liad's Kyler came to my rescue. He said in a deep voice. You too. Let her go. Can't you see her wrists are red? Kyler's aura was really strong, carrying an unrefusable majesty. As soon as he finished speaking, Colin and Jason almost let go of me at the same time. Jason was like a fool. Jolie. Who is this fierce-looking guy? Colin said arrogantly. Who am I? I'm the one Jolie likes. I was speechless. When I turned my eyes, I happened to meet Kyler's gaze. His eyes were deep, staring straight at me. For some reason, there was a kind of indescribable emotion in my heart. Jason was stunned for 2 seconds, then turned to ask me, Jolie, is he rich? My mouth twitched violently. This fool, was he trying to kill me? I quickly rushed over and covered his mouth with my hand, whispering, shut up. He nodded obediently. Perhaps this action was too intimate. And Colin exploded again. Jolie, do you think I'm dead? He wasn't dead, but I was almost annoyed to death by him. He rolled up his sleeves and was about to start a fight. Fortunately, having fulfilled Leo, Kyler stopped him. Kyler frowned slightly and said, Colin, when will you be more stable? Colin seemed really wronged. Brother. It's clearly Jolie. She's flirting with others behind my back. Afraid that Colin would cause trouble, I had to coax Jason to leave first. This silly goose had studied for 2 years abroad for a master's degree and even learned to bargain. You promised to have lunch with me this weekend. And I'll listen to you. I had no choice but to agree. Jason smiled foolishly. Then I'll pick you up this weekend. After sending him away, I hurried back. The 2 brothers were still at a stalemate. She chased after me for a year. How could she do such a thing with others? His tone was so pitiful. As if I was a woman who was fickle in love. And he was the one who was fawning over me. Kyler's expression changed slightly. Whether Jolie likes you or not, you have no right to interfere in her normal interactions with friends. I don't think her behavior just now was out of line. Instead, when will you stop giving me so much trouble? Although Colin was willful and arrogant, he still listened to Kyler. His emotions gradually calmed down. But I feel uncomfortable. Kyler patted him on the shoulder. You go back first. I want to talk to Jolie. Colin glared at me resentfully. My heart skipped a beat. And I guiltily shifted my gaze away. After Colin left, I finally let out a sigh of relief. I wiped the cold sweat from my forehead. President Kyler. Thank you for helping me out. He didn't respond to my words but asked me. Why are your wrists still red? Do you need to buy some medicine to apply? His focus seemed a bit off. I glanced at my reddened wrists. It's okay. It's just because my skin is fair. And any bumps or bruises make it look particularly red. It's been like this since I was a child. He nodded. Then changed the subject. Endure it for a couple more days. I've found Yvette. She'll be back in the country next week. You'll soon be free and won't have to endure my brother's bad temper anymore. Yvette? Didn't she cheat? I was confused. No. My father didn't think highly of Yvette's family and used some means to force her to break up with Colin. I fell silent. This was so melodramatic. I had an illusion of watching an 8 o'clock soap opera. Since Colin's beloved was coming back, I, the substitute sycophant, could make my exit. It was a pity about my 300 yuan monthly salary. Thinking about it, I inevitably felt heartbroken. I let out a long sigh. Kyler frowned slightly, looking displeased. Aren't you happy that Yvette is coming back? I didn't react immediately. A little bit. There was so much money at stake. Kyler's voice instantly cooled down 8 degrees. Jolie, didn't you say you don't like my brother? This was the first time he called me by my full name. When we first met, he politely called me Jolie. Recently, he also called me Jolie. I heard a hint of gnashing of teeth in his tone and quickly explained. I just suddenly have a sense of loss, as if I'm losing my job. Kyler's expressions softened a bit, and he slightly raised the corners of his lips. You still have this milk tea shop, or do you want to try something else? You can tell me, and I can help you with the investment. Is there a better boss than Kyler in the world? After firing me, he still wants to help me find a new job. I was a little excited. I've always wanted to open a coffee shop before, but the investment is too large, and I don't have that much principal. And a flower shop also seems nice. And I babbled on and on. Kyler just sat next to me, listening patiently. Have some water. He poured me a cup of warm boiled water. Thank you. I smiled awkwardly. Do you think I'm too noisy? No. He looked straight at me, with a hint of a smile in his eyes. I couldn't help but think that such an excellent man would end up being a lucky catch for some woman in the future. A few days later, Yvette returned to the country. In the following week, Colin never contacted me. Until I saw a photo of Colin and Yvette in a bar posted by one of Colin's friends on Moments. In the dim light, Yvette's eyebrows and eyes really did bear a 5-point resemblance to mine. No wonder Kyler had approached me back then. Since Colin and Yvette had rekindled their old relationship, I could retire after fulfilling my mission. I decisively deleted Colin's WeChat and blocked his phone number. I thought everything would end there. Unexpectedly, Colin would show up at my doorstep drunk and question me a grieved lie. Why did you block me? I was confused. Yvette was back, wasn't she? What was he coming to me for? Even more confusing was that Colin actually came to me to pick a fight. Jolie, you fickle woman. You clearly said you would marry no one but me in this life, that you loved me to death, and that you would always be by my side no matter what. You're a liar. You actually dared to mess around with that fool behind my back. I've been waiting for you to explain to me for half a month. You cruel woman actually blocked me. Why can you come and go in my world as you please? I was stunned. What was all this about? I took out my phone and asked, what's Yvette's phone number? I'll call her to pick you up. Colin snatched my phone and smashed it. You really think I'm annoying? What forever? What always? You're just a liar. With his bad temper. If it weren't for the money, I wouldn't serve him for even a second, let alone a lifetime. You compensate me for my phone. It was a newly bought Mate 40 Pro worth 7.0 yuan. And he actually smashed it. I was really going crazy. Colin grabbed my waist. Isn't it just a broken phone? I'll compensate you with myself. Jolie, you've made a great deal. After saying that, he kissed me. I was really going crazy. I completely didn't understand why Colin suddenly went crazy. But he actually dared to take advantage of me. This was something I couldn't tolerate. He held me tightly, and I couldn't push him away. In a hurry, I picked up a book from the corner cabinet and hit him on the head. I swear, I just wanted Colin to let me go. I never thought that this hit would knock him out. Oh no. The cover of this book was quite hard. I panicked and checked his breath. Fortunately, having fulfilled my sigh, he was still breathing. I was worried that I might have given him a concussion. After thinking about it, I decided to send him to the hospital for a checkup. I called a taxi and gave the driver some extra money to help me carry Colin into the car. I was a bit anxious. Sir, can you hurry up? Sure thing. As soon as the driver finished speaking, the car sped off. I was scared to death, clutching the seat belt and leaning back desperately. When we encountered a traffic light, the driver hit the brakes suddenly. And Colin, who was lying in the back seat, rolled down and hit his head on the car door. He covered his head and got up, asking groggily, Jolie, why does my head hurt so much? He brought this on himself. Since you're awake, go home by yourself. I asked the driver to stop by the roadside. I had just walked a few steps when Colin followed. He grabbed my arm. Jolie. Don't go. Wait for me. I was a bit annoyed. But considering that he had made me earn so much money, I still needed to have a sense of after-sales service. I took a deep breath and tried to ask in a calm tone. What else do you want? He knitted his brows. Why are you suddenly so cold to me? Before, I couldn't drive you away. And you said you would never leave me. Silly boy. That was a lie. I was afraid that telling the truth would stimulate him. It was so hard for me. But I still had to keep smiling and stand my last post. At first, you allowed me to be by your side because I looked like a gat. Now that she's back, I naturally have to step aside. Colin. I can't stop you from pursuing your happiness. In the future, I'll live well on my own. Don't worry about me. Colin was stunned for a few moments. Then suddenly took my hand and placed it on his chest. What if I say you're my happiness? Then I might be scared to death by you. I was so shocked that I hiccuped. Colin. Are you kidding me? Abandoning his first love and coming to me. The fake one? Was I the one who got knocked silly just now? He said in a deep voice. I'm not kidding. Before Yvette came back, I really thought I still loved her. But when she came back and said she still loved me and wanted to get back together, I wasn't happy. These days, all I can think about is you. I feel so upset when you ignore me. I know I wasn't good to you before. But can you stop using that dull-witted guy to piss me off? When I see you getting close to other men, I really wish I could beat him to death. It was rare to see him with such a serious expression. I started to stutter when I spoke. Colin. Calm down. I'm very calm. But I couldn't calm down. The main character falling in love with the substitute? What kind of melodramatic plot is this? For now, I could only try to soothe him. I'm a bit confused right now. Give me some time to sort things out. Can I give you an answer after I figure it out? He frowned unhappily. Then I'll give you 10 minutes. Is that enough? Not enough. Half an hour? Not enough. An hour. I can't give you more. 3 days. 3 days? Why don't you say 3 years? Well, actually that could work too. Jolie. He was so angry that he jumped up and down. Do you intend to infuriate me to the point of exasperation? Okay. Then 2 days. 2 days should be enough for Kyler to come up with a solution. Right? I definitely want to pass this hot potato to him. Colin snorted. 2 days it is. Anyway, having fulfilled my session, you'll end up being mine in the end. Dear. You're a bit too confident. Aren't you? The next day, I told Kyler about this in detail. President Kyler. Can you think of a way to make him give up on me? He answered irrelevant lie. Did he kiss you? This is so embarrassing. I should have skipped this part just now. The air pressure around Kyler became very low. Did you knock him out? I nodded, feeling a bit nervous. After all, Kyler dotes on his younger brother so much. And I was afraid he'd blame me. But to my surprise, he said, good for you. He's really a loving brother. I'll take care of this. Don't worry. With Kyler saying this, I felt at ease. I had an inexplicable sense of trust in him. He asked me again, have you thought about the investment we talked about before? I asked my secretary to organize relevant cases. And she'll send them to your email later. You can take a look. Last time I just mentioned it casually. But he actually took it to heart. I was a bit flattered. Thank you. He reached out and ruffled my hair. You're welcome. After a pause, he added, Jolie. Actually, I'm a bit regretful. I looked at him in confusion. Regret what? Regret dragging you into this. Colin's temper is so wild that he's not afraid of anything. He must have made you suffer a lot of grievances. I brought Yvette back, thinking that everything could get back on track. But I forgot that people's hearts are the most difficult to control. He suddenly fell silent and turned his eyes to look at me. His gaze was so focused that I suddenly felt nervous. And my heart started to beat a little faster. The night breeze blew, bringing a bit of coolness. I couldn't help but sneeze. Kyler took off his black woolen coat and put it on me. His fingers accidentally brushed against my neck. and the cold touch made me shrink involuntarily. He caught this subtle movement. He chuckled softly. Don't be nervous. I'm not Colin. I won't force you to do anything. Of course I know that. In my perception, Kyler is the perfect representative of a gentleman. I didn't think that way. I wanted to explain. But I didn't know where to start. Should I tell him directly that I was just shy? Kyler tightened the coat around me a bit more. He was getting a bit too close. My cheeks were burning hot. And I hardly dared to look up at him. He let out a soft sigh. Jolie. I underestimated you. Overestimated Colin. And also overestimated myself. For a moment, even the wind seemed to stop. I could hear my heart beating erratically. As if it was out of control. My voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz. What do you mean? Kyler looked at me deeply. What do you think? After saying that, he immediately took a step back. I was too shocked to come back to my senses. Should I say something? Oops. I seem to have scared you. Kyler laughed self-deprecating lie. But what can I do? This is the first time I can't control my heart. I really don't have any experience. I can only ask you to be more understanding. Does he mean what I think? Am I just being self-indulgent? It can't be that both brothers are interested in me help. How could I possibly have such great charm? After being a sycophant for so long. Suddenly changing from the party being pursued to the pursuer. I really can't adjust my mindset. Before I could answer, Kyler said, you don't have to feel burdened. I'm telling you this just to follow my heart. Whether you accept it or not. Just follow your own heart. You don't need to give me an answer right away. After all, Colin is my younger brother. And I always have to confess to him first. My mind had completely stopped working. I nodded blankly. But in the next 2 days, neither Kyler nor Colin contacted me. I wanted to contact Kyler several times. But every time I picked up my phone, thinking about the throb that night, I felt too embarrassed. Receiving a call from Yvette was unexpected. I thought Yvette was going to give me trouble because of Colin and was so scared that I almost dropped my phone. But she was much gentler than I thought. Jolie. Colin had a car accident. What? This guy had another car accident. Did he go street racing again? Yvette seemed to have just cried. Her voice was a bit hoarse. Last night, Big Brother talked to Colin in the study. After that, he went crazy. Smashed a lot of things. And insisted on going street racing. I couldn't stop him. He's seriously injured this time and refuses to cooperate with the doctor's treatment. Big Brother scolded him for being too willful and even slapped him. Now he's so angry that he even threw away his medicine. Their two brothers have always had a good relationship. I don't know why there's such a big conflict all of a sudden. Her voice was trembling. I think Colin probably doesn't love me anymore. Just now, when you fell asleep, he was calling your name. Jolie. I don't know what your feelings are for him. But according to his friends, you two have been very close in the past year. He's in a bad mood right now. Can you come and see him? I suddenly felt sad and couldn't help thinking about what kind of mood Yvette was in when she said these words. She's different from any of the women who have been around Colin in the past year. No wonder he's been thinking about her for so long. After thinking about it, I still rushed to the hospital. Yvette was sitting on a chair in the corridor. Her eyes were swollen from crying. He didn't eat lunch. Please persuade him. I'll try. I asked casually. Where's Kyler? His secretary said he has a contract to sign today. I don't know when it will end. I nodded. Do you want to come in with me? She forced a bitter smile. No need. I'll leave as soon as you're here. He doesn't need me anymore now. I really didn't know what to say. As soon as I pushed the door open, I heard Colin say angrily, "Get out." I said I don't want to eat anything. He was lying with his back to the door. I sighed helplessly. Not taking medicine and not eating. Are you trying to kill yourself? As soon as I finished speaking, he almost immediately turned over and sat up. His forehead and arm were wrapped in bandages. And his cheek was also scratched. I noticed that his eyes were swollen too. Did he cry from the pain? He still seemed angry. What are you doing here again? Yvette said you refused to eat and was afraid you'd starve to death. So she asked me to come and take care of you. This words made him even angrier. What? Afraid that if I die, your money will be gone? Jolie, how can you be so heartless? Am I coal and only worth a mere 300 yuan in your eyes? I said awkwardly. It's 300. He was so angry that he jumped out of bed. Because his right calf was injured. He lost his balance and fell right beside the bed. I rushed to help him. But he shook me off. He said resentfully. Don't touch me. Okay. I won't touch you. Calm down first. You're a patient now and can't get so excited. To you, I'm just a stack of money, right? Why do you come here and pretend to care? His eyes were so red that they seemed to be about to bleed. When he spoke again, there was a hint of sobbing. That night when I confessed to you, did you think I was ridiculous? All your kindness to me was fake. Only I, this idiot, took it seriously. If you don't want to do this anymore, you can just leave. But what about me? Have you ever cared about my true feelings? I didn't expect him to cry. When he realized he was in tears, he quickly turned his head to the side and wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Colin, I'm sorry. At first, I thought I could withdraw easily. But I never expected things to turn out like this. His voice was muffled. What's the use of saying sorry? Can a simple sorry erase the harm you've done to my heart? So what do you want to do? He snorted. Unless you promise to be my girlfriend. His thoughts are really jumping. Aren't they? I almost suspect that his tears were fake. Colin. We're not suitable. What's not suitable? You just like money. Right? I can give it to you. I'm not much poorer than my brother. I was helpless. It's not entirely about the money. Colin gritted his teeth. Do you really have a crush on my brother? That's Sly Fox? Don't be deceived by his gentle appearance. He knew you were mine. Yet he still tried to hit on you behind my back. He's a bad guy. He lied to me for a year. And there's no guarantee he won't lie to you in the future. Well, is he trying to create more conflict? But Colin and I have never been together. So it's not really fair to say that Kyler is stealing someone's girlfriend. Moreover, although Kyler has expressed his feelings to me, he also clearly told me that he would confess to Colin first before asking for my answer. Colin was too angry to believe any of my explanations. In his eyes now, Kyler is like a womanizer. And I'm like an unfaithful woman. You don't have to compare yourself to Udal Ang. Do you? This is a metaphor. Do you understand metaphor? Everyone with eyes can see my good looks. Okay. Let's talk about this later. First, eat some wontons. I won't eat. Really not? Unless you feed me. Fine, heading for Feldweiabsertion. His young master syndrome is acting up again. I can't just let him starve. But after I fed him a few bites, I couldn't continue. He was eating. But his eyes were staring straight at me. His gaze was so intense that I felt he didn't really want to eat the wontons. But rather, he wanted to eat me. I got goose-ensed all over and almost dropped the bowl. I stuffed the bowl into his hands. Eat by yourself. He let out a pitiful, oh. Obediently picked up the spoon. Scooped up a wonton. And put it into his mouth. Throughout the process, his eyes never left me for a moment. Can you stop staring at me all the time? I felt creepy being stared at by him. I'm afraid that if I don't stare at you, you'll suddenly disappear. He used to be so arrogant. But now he looks like a bullied young wife. Colin. I really don't have. He interrupted me angrily. The doctor said I have a concussion. I can't stand any stimulation right now. I advise you to think carefully before you speak. I had to swallow my words. By the time Kyler arrived, it was already evening. But Colin wouldn't let him into the ward. He limped over and locked the door from the inside. I was completely dumbfounded. Was he being too childish? Colin shouted angrily through the door. You're coming to snatch Jolie from me again. Right? Don't even think about it. I won't let her see you. Kyler was so angry that he laughed. Fine, let out a low sigh. As long as you're happy. I've put the food at the door for you. Remember to get it. After Kyler left, I wanted to open the door to get the lunchbox. But Colin wouldn't allow it. I won't eat what he sent. And you're not allowed to eat it either. He was really like a child. Then what shall we eat? I was really getting a bit hungry. He had already taken out his phone. "I'll order takeout for you." I was really defeated by him. It was past 10 o'clock when I left the hospital. Kyler still hadn't left. He was leaning against the car, with a little red glow from his cigarette flickering on and off between his fingers. This seemed to be the first time I saw him smoking. Standing there, his figure looked particularly lonely. A strange feeling vaguely rose in my heart. When he saw me, he immediately crushed the cigarette and threw it into the trash can. Is he asleep? Perhaps because he had just smoked. His voice was a bit hoarse. "Yeah. Why haven't you left yet?" "It's too late. I'm worried that it's not safe for you to go back alone." He opened the passenger's side door. "And in case I hit my head," he put his palm on top, "get in the car. I'll take you home." Why was he always so considerate and thoughtful? Besides me, had any other woman enjoyed his special treatment? Thinking like this, I suddenly felt uncomfortable. "Did Yvette ask you to come?" "Yeah." I told Colin the truth. I told him that if he really likes you, I can compete with him fairly. But now his trust in me has been greatly reduced. No matter what I say, he thinks I'm trying to steal you from him. He's been throwing tantrums these 2 days. "I didn't want to trouble you originally." Yeah. He even called me Pangilion today. Kyler laughed. So he regards me as She-Man King? Thinking about it, it was really ridiculous. But I was a bit worried. Sorry. If it weren't for me, the two brothers wouldn't have such a big conflict. Jolie, don't put too much pressure on yourself. When he gets better, I'll find another chance to talk to him. My brother is a bit willful, but he has a good heart. He'll figure it out. I hope so. In the next 3 days, I only went to the hospital once. Colin threw a tantrum at me again. "You don't have anything important to do. Why can't you stay in the hospital with me?" "Who says I have nothing to do? I'm planning to invest in a flower shop. There's a lot of preparatory work." He stared at me discontentedly. "Are you making excuses to avoid me? When you're not in the hospital, are you secretly dating my brother?" "Jolie, you do like my brother, don't you?" "Do I like him? I feel safe just thinking about him. As long as he's around, I feel like I don't have to be afraid of anything." "Is this love?" Seeing that I was silent, Colin almost jumped up. "You're actually silent. Is this a tacit admission?" "Jolie, cousin fulfilledly obsession. Do you know my brother is not normal? He's already 30 years old. After breaking up with his first love, he hasn't dated anyone again. Even the mosquitoes around him are male. Is this abnormal? This just shows that he's self-disciplined. Doesn't it?" Colin stared at me hatefully. "Are you mocking me?" I pursed my lips. "Well, in this regard, your brother is indeed more reassuring to girls than you," he said through gritted teeth. "Fine. Just you wait." I was confused. What was this young master trying to stir up again? A few days later, Colin secretly ran out of the hospital to find me. He excitedly threw a stack of photos at me. "These were taken by a private detective I hired. They're all the women my brother has come into contact with these days. Look at this one. This woman was almost sticking to my brother when she was talking. And this one. My brother was actually having coffee with this woman." I had a black line across my forehead. It must be really hard to find such a useless private detective. "Colin, are you kidding me? The first beauty is your brother's secretary. It's okay if you don't know her since you don't go to the company. And the second beauty, isn't she your distant cousin? I even accompanied you to her birthday party." Colin's smile froze at the corner of his mouth. "Cousin? She must have had plastic surgery. Right?" The next day, Colin tried the same trick again. I was already speechless. "If you come here and talk nonsense again, I'll really get angry." Colin raised one hand in a gesture of surrender. "I'm definitely not lying to you this time. My brother went on a blind date. Although it was my dad who asked him to go. If he really likes you, he should have refused, right? He says he loves you while going on a blind date. Such a fickle man is definitely not the one for you." "Did Kyler go on a blind date?" Colin had already pulled up a video. "Look." My brother was smiling so wide that his mouth almost reached his ears. "He must like this woman. It wasn't as exaggerated as Colin described, but in the video, Kyler did have a gentle smile on his lips. And the beauty sitting across from him was decent and generous. She was probably a famous socialite from an old family. She and Kyler were well matched. A handsome man with a beautiful woman. I knew very well that Kyler wasn't the kind of person who was gentle and amiable to everyone. He probably did have a good impression of this beauty. I suddenly felt a sour feeling in my heart, and even the milk tea I drank tasted bitter. Colin was still muttering something in my ear, but I seemed to be unable to hear anything. Since Kyler expressed his feelings to me that day, I've asked myself more than once whether I like him or not, if I wasn't sure before. At this moment, I clearly knew that I liked him. But with such a big gap between us, could we really be together? Moreover, there was Colin between us. The more I thought about it, the more hesitant I became. I took out my phone, wanting to call Kyler and ask him why he went on a blind date when he said he liked me. But what identity could I use to question him? I wasn't his girlfriend yet. I was in a bad mood and wandered around the street for most of the afternoon. Finally, having a sigh, I decided to go back to my mom's place. Unexpectedly, it was Jason who opened the door. I was stunned for a moment, thinking I had gone to the wrong door. "Why are you here?" He was holding wool and needles in his hands. I asked in surprise. "You're not accompanying my mom to knit a sweater, are you?" He scratched his head shyly. "Aunt, I insisted on teaching me this." My mom came out of the kitchen with a plate of fruits. "Jolie, didn't you say you'd come back tomorrow?" "I didn't have much to do at the store today, so I came back to take a look. Jason is such a good boy. He passed by today and specially bought fruits to see me. Come and eat quickly." Jason looked at me nervously. "Sorry. I didn't tell you in advance." "Don't be angry." He was really a silly goose. Before I could say anything, my mom answered first. "Why would she be angry? You came to chat with me. She should be thanking you." Jason had always been a good boy in my mom's eyes. I had to say that a bookworm like him was actually quite popular with the older generation. My stomach was growling. "Mom, what's for dinner?" Jason asked. "What would you like to eat? I can cook it." I looked at him in confusion. Could he even cook? TSK. I really underestimated him. Not only could he cook, but his cooking skills were also quite good. The food looked delicious, and I ate until I was stuffed. My mom kept praising. "Jason is the type who would make a good husband. Why do you always chase after that Colin? Besides being good-looking, he has a terrible temper. I don't like him." I didn't dare to say anything. If my mom knew that I now liked Colin's brother, she'd probably go crazy. And Jason's face turned red. He stared at me affectionately. It was already chaotic enough, and I didn't want to drag Jason into it. So after dinner, when I sent him to the gate of the community, I told him again, "Jason, thank you for coming to see my mom. But please don't waste your time on me anymore. There's really no possibility between us." When he was sad, he still had that dazed look. "But Colin has a bad temper. He doesn't deserve you." I laughed. "Who told you I like him?" He blinked. "Then do you like Kyler?" He was quite quick-witted. I pursed my lips and said, "You're meddling too much." "Sorry." He was apologizing to me again. "Then if you're not with him, can you consider me?" Goodness. This guy was so persistent. It took me a lot of effort to send him away. When I lay down to rest, I saw a WeChat message from Kyler. He asked if I had rested and if I wanted to go out for a walk, thinking about him going on a blind date. I was a bit sulky and deliberately turned off my phone without replying. The next morning, when I turned on WeChat again, I saw a message from Kyler sent at 3 o'clock in the morning. "You're angry. What happened?" Even if I didn't reply all night, he still had such a gentle tone. He always seemed to be infinitely tolerant of me. Thinking of him smiling at another woman in the video, I felt an indescribable soreness in my heart. I touched the corner of my eyes, and they were actually a bit moist. I called him, but no one answered. That sense of loss almost engulfed me. "Jolie, get up and have breakfast." My mom came back with fried dough sticks and spicy soup. "I'm not hungry right now. I'll eat later." I really didn't have much appetite. I stared at the phone screen without blinking. After staring for a long time, my eyes felt extremely sore. Suddenly, the phone rang. Seeing Kyler displayed on the screen, my heart was pounding. I picked up the phone nervously, and his gentle voice came from the receiver. "Did you wake up?" I let out a low hun. He asked tentatively, half tentatively. "Can you tell me what happened yesterday?" I hesitated a bit, but couldn't hold back. "Did you go on a blind date yesterday? Where are you now?" "I have a morning meeting later. I'll come to you after it's over. And we can talk in person." I made an appointment with him in the park opposite my mother's house. It was already past 10 when he arrived. "I did go on a blind date yesterday. I'm not young anymore, and my dad has been urging me to get married." "If you were going on a blind date, why did you confess your love to me?" He looked at me, and a few hints of amusement suddenly appeared in his eyes. Realizing my gaffe, I quickly tried to make up for it. "I don't mean anything else. I just think one shouldn't be half-hearted." This didn't sound right either. Did it? Kyler chuckled. "I went to the meeting just to go through the motions and shut my dad up." You even smiled at her. "Although the blind date didn't succeed, I made a business deal with the blind date partner. Isn't that worth being happy about?" His smile became more unrestrained. "But you, Jolie, are you jealous? Since I've confirmed my feelings. Of course I want to have a future with him." "Yes, couldn't so might say. I'm jealous." "So what?" He probably didn't expect me to be so straightforward. He was stunned for a few moments. Then he smiled and embraced me. "It's nothing. I'm just very happy." "Kyler." "Huh? Your heart is beating so fast." When did you start liking me?" I was really a bit curious. "That time. I happened to pass by and saw Monica going to give you trouble. You were going to slap her. Right? But because you saw me coming, you pretended to be pitiful so that I would stand up for you." "Ugh. It's been so long. Why did he have to expose me?" I punched him. "Can you not talk about my embarrassing things?" He chuckled. "Those few tears you deliberately squeezed out for the occupational injury subsidy were really fake. But when I saw that little sly glint in your eyes, I suddenly thought it was quite interesting. No wonder." "What?" "No wonder that night when we were staying on the mountain, when you saw me coming out of the bathroom wearing your shirt. Your ears were so red that they seemed about to drip blood." He laughed softly. "Well, maybe I was a little shy." "Oh. So the decisive person in the business world can also be shy. How did you know I went on a blind date?" "It was Colin. That brat. Did he send someone to follow me?" Speaking of being followed, I pushed Kyler away in a panic. He stumbled. "What's wrong?" I looked around to make sure no one was secretly taking pictures. And I let out a long sigh of relief, covering my chest. I was afraid we were being secretly photographed too. Kyler raised his eyebrows. "What? Afraid I'll embarrass you? What nonsense. I'm worried that Colin won't be able to accept it for a while. How about we date secretly for now?" Kyler firmly refused. "No. I know what you're worried about. But if we hide it from Colin and he finds out someday, things will only get worse. You know? Besides, we're in love with each other. And there's nothing to be ashamed of." Although he tried his best to comfort me, I was still uneasy. Kyler ruffled my hair. "Come on, girlfriend. Put other things aside for now and accompany your boyfriend to have lunch. Okay?" Thinking that not long ago, I was still his employee, and now I've become the boss's wife? Thinking like this, I couldn't help feeling a bit proud. I deliberately flirtatiously lifted his chin. "Okay. Your girlfriend will treat you to a meal." His eyes darkened, and he grabbed my presumptuous finger, kissing it on his lips. My cheeks suddenly turned hot, and even my breath seemed to be burning. He leaned closer and kissed me on the lips. When he let go of me, I could hardly breathe. He chuckled. "Your lung capacity is so poor. It seems I'll have to take you for a morning run in the future. Otherwise, how can you handle it later?" What is he talking about? I'm so embarrassed. Kyler held my hand and appeared in the ward. Colin's reaction was even more intense than I expected. Almost instantly, Haddington felt my obsession He rushed up, waving his fist. I wanted to stop the fight. But before we came, Kyler told me that no matter what Colin did, I couldn't interfere. Colin hit hard. And Kyler didn't fight back. The corner of his mouth turned blue from the beating. I was so anxious that tears were about to fall. I couldn't help shouting, "Colin! Stop hitting!" Colin's punching motion stopped abruptly. He turned to look at me, the fierceness in his eyes still not fading. "I'm just punching him a few times. Are you really that heartbroken? What if it was him hitting me today? Would you cry for me?" I sniffed. "Your brother loves you the most. He won't hit you." Colin raised his voice a notch. "He loves me? If he loves me, would he take you away? And who said he didn't hit me? Wasn't it him who slapped me a few days ago? He hit you because he hoped you would cooperate with the doctor's treatment. And I've never been with you. So it's not like he took me away." Colin's eyes almost turned red in an instant. "Fine. You two are so in love. A perfect match. I'm just a clown. Are you satisfied?" Kyler wanted to pat his shoulder. But Colin shook him off. Kyler sighed. "Colin. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked Jolie to deceive you in the first place. I didn't expect you to fall in love with her. And I never thought that I myself couldn't escape either. But I've never done anything underhanded behind your back. I confessed my love to Jolie after she rejected you. If she had accepted you, I would have buried my feelings for her in my heart forever and sincerely wished you both happiness." There was a deathly silence in the ward. Colin sat down on the floor, giving up. He didn't say anything. Just stayed there in silence. I walked over quietly, wiped the blood from the corner of Kyler's mouth, and then asked softly, "Does it hurt?" He shook his head. "I'm okay. Can you just stop showing off your love in front of me?" Colin said with suppressed anger. "I'm a patient, not a dog." I took Kyler's hand and left the ward. "Let me talk to him alone." "Okay. If you need anything, just call me. I'll wait for you right here. Don't worry. He won't hit me." I walked into the ward and sat down on the floor next to Colin. He immediately moved aside. He was still angry. "You're going to be my sister-in-law. What else do you want to talk to me about? Talk about your wedding and ask me to be the flower boy?" I almost burst out laughing. I've never seen a 20-something-year-old flower boy. He glared at me resentfully. Am I that ridiculous? No. It really wasn't my fault. Sometimes his way of thinking was really strange. "Why do you like my brother?" "Because he's good to me." "Am I not good to you?" After shouting this, he was stunned for a second, then deflated. "Well, I was really not good to you." He grabbed his hair in frustration. "But you know, I have bipolar disorder and often can't control my emotions. Jolie, I'm willing to change for you, as long as you give me a chance." In fact, Colin wasn't bad to me. His mood swings were basically not directed at me. Maybe it's because I can figure out his temperament. Whenever there's the slightest change in his emotions, I'll immediately turn into a sycophant and nip his anger in the bud. So, being with him made me feel tired. I had to stay alert and quick-witted all the time, for fear of making a mistake. But in front of Kyler, I didn't have to be so cautious or servile. After listening to what I said, Colin fell silent again. Finally, having fulfilled my obsession, I told him, "Colin, save your kindness for the girl who truly loves you. I'll wish you both happiness." After leaving the hospital that day, I didn't see Colin for a long time. Kyler said that after Colin was discharged from the hospital, he seemed like a different person. He completely settled down. Hardly went to the bar anymore. Not only went to work in the Kyler family's business in an orderly manner, but also became more emotionally stable. Kyler was very curious. "What exactly did you say to him that day?" I leaned on his shoulder with a smile. "I said I like you very much." When I teased him, he also laughed. "You just know how to make me happy." No. I'm not. What I said was from the bottom of my heart. I quickly kissed Kyler on the lips, but he held the back of my hand and deepened the kiss. After it ended, he commented, "Well, your lung capacity has improved significantly recently." I smiled and gently pinched his arm. "You're so annoying." Our relationship became more and more stable. We didn't even have a quarrel or a petty argument. Once, I joked with him. Kyler, let's have a fight. What couple never quarrels? He stared at me thoughtfully for a few seconds. Then put down his book. Okay. You start first. I'm listening. How can one person have a fight? I was a bit at a loss. But I can't bear to quarrel with you. He was taking the opportunity to confess his love to me again. I cleared my throat. Well. Okay. You just sit there obediently and get ready to face my scolding. He spread his hands. Go ahead. I stood beside the sofa. Hands on my hips. Pretending to be angry. But after brewing for a long time, I couldn't think of a single word for a quarrel. Instead, I made myself laugh. I jumped into his arms. Laughing. It's all because you're too good to me. He affectionately rubbed his chin against my forehead. Okay. It's all my fault. In fact, our relationship wasn't all smooth sailing. Kyler's father came to me once. He forced me to leave. Just like he did to Yvette. I had heard the words he said 180 times in cheesy TV dramas. And my heart was completely unperturbed. Finally, having fulfilled my obsession, he gave me a 2 million yuan check. As long as Jolie leaves. You can take this money anytime. I tore up the check and replied neither humbly nor arrogantly. Uncle, although I love money. The relationship between Kyler and me can't be measured by money. I'm glad to meet you today. I have something else to do. So I won't have tea with you. I was about to leave. When I turned around, I found Kyler at the door of the tea room. I didn't know how much of what I said he had heard. He strode over. Tightly held my hand. And said firmly to Father Chu. Dad. I'm not Colin. I'm not that easily deceived. Nor will I let you manipulate me. Jolie isn't Yvette either. She loves me deeply, and is very smart. If you don't want to lose me as your son, please stop meddling in my affairs. My palms were full of sweat. After we left the tea room, Kyler asked with concern. Were you very nervous? A bit. Your dad is quite serious. Don't be afraid. I'm here. Okay. I'm not afraid. As long as he's by my side. I can move forward without hesitation. Half a year after falling in love with Kyler, he proposed to me. The diamond ring was huge. So dazzling that it almost blinded my eyes. But, isn't it a bit too soon? Kyler rubbed his forehead. Girlfriend. Your boyfriend is already 31 years old. I smiled and put my arms around his neck. What are you afraid of? I don't mind that you're old. He kissed my forehead. It's no use even if you do mind. You've accepted my ring. So you're mine now. So overbearing? Yes. I'm so scared. Do you still dare to refuse if you're scared? No. I don't dare. Then let's go get the marriage certificate tomorrow. Tomorrow? That's too soon. And since we're getting the marriage certificate tomorrow, you should have let me rest early today. What are you still bothering me for? How can I get up in the morning? Colin's side story. I don't even know when I fell in love with Jolie. She seemed to have dropped into my life from the sky. She was different from those girls who hung around me. She was not pretentious at all. Never threw tantrums. And always did as I said. She was always considerate. Taking care of all my emotions. She accompanied me when I cried. Laughed. Drank, let out a low sigh. And sang. No matter how much I made a fuss. She never seemed to get tired of it. Gradually, some people around me started to look down on her. They even laughed at her in front of me. Saying she was my sycophant and mocking her for having no dignity or bottom line. I found their words harsh and beat up the gossip monger until his face was black and blue. If I hear you talking bad about Jolie again, I'll break your legs. I didn't know why I was so angry. Clearly. I also enjoyed her pursuit and admiration for me. But I just couldn't stand others looking down on her. No one was allowed to. Slowly, I found that I seemed to be unable to live without her. When I couldn't see her, I felt restless and eager to see her. When I saw her, it still wasn't enough. I wanted to hold her, kiss her, and possess her. Since I thought so in my heart, I couldn't help but act on it. But she rejected me. Hadn't she said she loved me forever? Why did she reject me? Oh, it turned out that she was hired by my brother with 300 Dear Yuan. She was a liar. She lied to me for a year. That she wasn't willing to lie to me for a lifetime. The worst thing was that my brother also fell in love with her. And he said he would compete with me fairly. When I asked Jolie if she liked my brother, she was silent. At that moment, I knew I had lost. But I wasn't willing to give up. I didn't want to let her go. She was my salvation. My light. I started to be unreasonable. Constantly trying to prove to Jolie that I loved her more and was more suitable for her than my brother. Doing so didn't make me happy. Instead, I felt tormented inside. My brother is the kindest person to me in the world. But I desperately wanted to pull him off the pedestal. It was really shameful. I went to the bar to get drunk and unexpectedly met Jason, Jolie's childhood friend. This silly goose actually came to the bar? What surprised me even more was that he said he had been in love with Jolie for 10 years. I've confessed to her 8 times. But she rejected me every time. But I thought that as long as she wasn't in a relationship, I still had a chance. I've decided to give up now, because she's found her own happiness. Isn't loving someone about wanting them to be happy? If you just want to tie the other person to your side, that's not love. It's possessiveness. It was really annoying. He was so stupid. Yet he dared to lecture me. What was even more annoying was that I thought what he said made sense. I remembered how relaxed and happy Jolie looked when she was with my brother. My brother, such a wise and steady man, was indeed thousands of times more suitable for her than me. I called my brother. You owe me something and you have to return it to me. My brother always had that calm tone. What is it? I smiled softly. 3.6 million yuan. Not a penny less. He also laughed. Okay. I'll transfer it to you right now. Brother. I wish you and Jolie happiness. Thank you.